It's 10:10, and I've been thinking about this since probably, it might have been before February. Normally, I won't feel like I have a message or something that the Lord wants to do that early, ever. But this has been stirring in my heart, specifically this morning, for a long time. And I am so expectant for this morning, and I felt that the Lord said, hey, you need to get into ministry time. He's wanting to deal with some stuff this morning. So I'm going to share for maybe 5 minutes, and then we're going to go back into his presence. We're going to look at him, and he's going to mark us. So Clarence has been talking a little bit more in February, a little bit of March, about new wineskins. That's been language of our house in this season. And a couple years ago, I was listening to this podcast, and John Tyson, I don't know if you guys know him, he's from Church of the City in New York, and he was talking about, there's this parenting podcast, which you guys should definitely listen to, even if you're not a parent. It's just gold. But he's talking, and he's like, my daughter's going to college, and there'll be a graph up behind, or a picture up behind me, but he said, I was helping her because she was having a hard time adjusting to college, and he said, you're going to move from excitement to disillusionment, and then you have to move to adjustment and health. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. I'm thinking of the students that are walking through. We're at my house last month with seniors, and we're talking through this of like, you're going to hit walls. It's not if, it's a when. You're going to hit trials. It's not if, it's when. And so just like, I think sometimes people have walked away from faith because we have a poor theology of suffering. And we gave a whole generation helicopter parents where we did everything to protect them from everything. And then they get in the real world and they don't know what to do. And they're like, I don't relate to this God that you're talking about because you make everything seem so hunky-dory, that everything is good. And there is sin in the world. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but there is. And you can see it in a 2-year-old. For those of you that have little ones, you're like, that is just straight up rebellion. Like, where did that come from? It's like sin is in the world, and you can see it in big ways and you can see it in small ways. But over the past couple years, God has been teaching me about the new wineskin. And I see the numbers 222 everywhere. I used to balk at people that would talk numbers and prophetic numbers and all this stuff. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I am now that person. We have 3 big 2s up in our bedroom. I could tell you story after story of affirmations of God and how he's come and shown me those numbers at significant times. And so I made a graph similar to the other one, but just with a little bit different language. So in this one, it says we move from an expectant heart to opposition or testing, death to flesh, and then into new wineskin or new mineskin, and then we get the new wine. And I mentioned this earlier, but in Romans 12:1, that's the present yourselves as a living sacrifice, right? And then it says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we can't just want the renewing of our mind and all this good stuff from God if we're not going to get on the table. We can't just keep bringing stuff of sacrifice to the altar. Okay, I'll give you my money. I'll give you, and he's like, get on the altar. Get on the altar. So we actually have to step into the death. We have to step into the opposition. We have to sit sometimes in the disillusionment. And this isn't just a, hey, go get excited in God. Guys, come on, get excited. Don't you see all that he's doing? It's like, no, sometimes it's go sit in the disillusionment and meet with God. Go to the pain. Go to the grief. I'm giving you freedom in this season when you're hearing about revival to go grieve with God, because to him, he's receiving that as your worship. Like, we're not putting just this happy glaze over people. Some of it, I'm giving this charge again to students of like, figure this out. Learn how to go in with God. In Ecclesiastes 3, some of you guys have heard this. We know that there's a time for everything. Sorry, the 2:22 reference is Mark 2:22. Don't put new wine into old wineskins. Okay, Ecclesiastes 3. It says this: there's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Okay? That's been talked about. I heard sermons on that when I was growing up, about the timing of God and all these things. But somebody may have preached this and kept going, but if, in whatever case, I missed it. I'm going to jump down to verse 11. It says, He has made everything beautiful in its time. Everything that I just talked about, when you're in pain, beautiful. When you're in joy, beautiful. When your flesh is dying, beautiful. When there's accusation against you, beautiful. You might not see it right then, but it is beautiful. Why? Because He makes everything beautiful in its time. When you're in the honor, what we're singing about the song, I praise you in this accusation, I praise you in the honor. He makes everything beautiful. Everything. Every season. So some of you, like we're talking revival and we think, oh, that has to look like me being excited. No, it doesn't. It has to look like you getting restored and into the fullness of God, what He has for you. That's revival. Being alive and awake to what He has for you. The thing that can grieve me the most is when we cannot disciple this generation in our disillusionment. It's like my wife and I get married. I'm totally past the 5 minutes. Guys, tell me to stop it. We just got married. We get to the hotel. She's in her dress. I'm in my suit. There's like an Arbonne conference or something, and it's like, what in the world? We were trying to just ride up the elevator by ourselves on the way up so we could make out, and it wasn't going to happen. So we just had to get on with all these ladies. It was hilarious, and we're like, okay, we get on the elevator, and this lady goes, "You guys just get married?" It's like, "Yeah, we did." He's like, "Good luck. I just got a divorce." It was like the day we got married. The day. Like sometimes when youth are on fire, we see their excitement. The thing that we do is like, hey, I know you've got zeal, but let me give you all the wisdom right now. And we just will squelch them. We won't even let their hearts come alive into the things of God. And some of us in this room, we've squelched ourselves because we'd rather... The things in front of us are all the bad things and responsibility and all the things, and it's weighed us down. Revelation 4. Okay, I'm coming. It says, this is one of the principles that we've learned in worship. It's from Revelation 4. If you want to encounter more of what God has been doing and teaching us in praise, we'll be in the Plex tonight from 6 to 8 for Maranatha night, okay? But what we've done is we've said, hey, we're actually going to go get up there in heaven. I'm going to read it first, okay? So then you'll know what I'm talking about. It says, after this, I looked and behold, a door standing open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, come up here. I will show you what must take place after this. At once I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne stood in heaven with one seated on the throne. Okay, so like a trumpet, get on up here. There's too many people praying their opinions and not praying the word and truth of God. It's not what we think it's best, it's what He says is best. Sometimes what you're calling disillusionment, He's going, this is the best place for you to be. I don't want to take you out of this season. I want you because you're going to learn to long for me. There was a season where I was my wife's disillusionment. It was tough. It was super tough. But the thing in her heart, and I don't mind exposing myself, is she went, God, this is what you say is best for me. Like, this is the best you had. The students are going, why are you guys laughing? Because those people are all married and they know. But it was super hard, one, to watch her go through that and one, to receive it. But I felt the grace of God on it where I went, she's got to work through this stuff. And I felt the grace, and I didn't apologize well up to the 7 years of our marriage. And I just felt this grace of like, I'll apologize for anything. But the power and restoration, it broke when Sarah went, I need to own that I've put all my hope in you. And I've put all this on you so that I can be filled from you and what you do and how you perform and all this stuff. And like, it didn't break, the tension didn't break until she was able to do that. I walked in this room in 2016 and I was in that back corner right there and I was disillusioned. I was saying stuff like, I will never work for a church. Because I had read too much church history and I had learned all these things and I had seen hard stuff and people betraying people and abusing power and using the word of God for their gain. And I was like, I could never do it. But I'm more excited about the bride of Christ right now than I've ever been because he is glorious. And if you get up on that level and say, I want to see what he sees, I want to get above the disillusionment, I want to get his opinion, and from there, like, bring health, restoration. That's how you keep a zealous heart until the end. We've got to fight for it, people. We want to be the ones that are burning at the end. There is stuff that's coming for Antioch Norman, but I don't want to be the church in Revelation 2 that says, but your first love was gone. You did all this stuff, but you didn't love each other or me like you did at first. And it's like, not on my watch, not in my household. We're going to love the living God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind. It's 10:23, so we're just going to go ahead and get into ministry time. So band, you can come back on up. We're going to enter into his presence, okay? There's so many words of knowledge this morning that are coming. God wants to restore you. He wants to meet you in the disillusionment. He wants to restore first love, okay? The lid is coming off. The lid is popping off. What's been bottled up? What's been holding you back? The Spirit of the living God has been looking forward and expectant for this Sunday morning. We were in staff prayer this morning and about 12 people prayed and I went, it's over. It's over. They just prayed everything that God's been showing me. It's over. We have to get out of the pews. We have to get out of our disillusionment. I was in the back corner and I would still move a little bit in my secret place, but I wouldn't in front of the church or the bride. And I remember going like this in the back, and this was all I had. You guys already saw me jumping around this morning. It's not that way any longer. One, because I'm not disillusioned with the bride, and I don't care what you think. No offense. I mean, I do. If you want to come talk to me, I can be humble. I'll receive. But it's like, guys, come on, wake up. Wake up. Talk to your spirit. Do what you need to do to say, I am a son of God. I am a daughter of God. I can endure pain. I can endure process. Why? Because the Spirit of the living God is within me. It's around me. I'm in a community of believers that have high hope and high faith. If you are disillusioned, if you're in despair, if you're in depression, come forward. If you just want more, come forward. If you're hopeful, come forward. Whatever it might be, if you see something in one of these students and you want to release it, come forward. We have got to not be stuck and stood still. Some of you have been sitting in the same seat since you've walked in this church building, and the Lord might assign you to go, I need to mix it up. I need to sit somewhere new. I need to have fresh perspective. I need to get on up there into heaven and see what he sees and see what he looks like, and then bring heaven down to earth. I wrote this down and I was like, that's pretty good. Where is it? I lost it. You can't pray on earth as it is in heaven if you don't know what's going on in heaven. Or if you don't know what the atmosphere of heaven is. If you don't know the songs they're singing. If you don't, you can't say on earth as it is in heaven. That's pretty much saying like, I hope something good happens. Because God's good. It's like he is good. But let's worship in spirit and in truth. We're not doing feeling up here. It's like holy, holy, holy. That's true. We weren't singing anything about your feelings. The revelation of who God is met us in the room. So we're going to respond. I'm just going to stop talking. You guys land the plane. All right.